I thought it was just a dream, once somewhere out there. At some point I met you. I woke up early that morning. Then I saw you and thought it was a dream. How wonderful it was. The words under my pen created their own world in an amazing way. At that time, you were still a brave teenager, laughing, carefree, and openly going through life. You said that the world is restless right now and asked me to follow you. After listening to the objections of your fellow apprentices, I nodded my head and agreed. Of course, I wanted to follow you. I didn't care about their opinions because you were my main character. When we returned to your sect, the sect head called you over, probably to ask where I came from. After all, I really came from nowhere. Don't be afraid, trust me, you said. Now that I think about it, it was really incredible. I obviously met you for the first time, but you believed me so sincerely, without the slightest doubt. However, you were able to do it. I didn't know how you explained it. All I knew was that you laughed, put your hand on my shoulder, and told me I could stay here with you together. Thanks, I said. You, who seemed to be an adult man, suddenly blushed deeply, like a child who has been praised. You were still stubbornly looking at me and telling me that I shouldn't laugh, even though your face was obviously red from embarrassment. A kid pretending to be an adult, I secretly thought. Like all teenagers, you were in love with a girl. The girl was young and energetic. She tied her hair in a red satin ponytail, but every time when she smiled, two cute dimples appeared on her cheeks. She affectionately called you Shiksyong-won. Her voice was extremely sweet, a little cloying, which is exactly what you liked. She was the only daughter of the sect head. It's a pity that the person she likes is not you, but a senior student with great authority, hereinafter referred to as Da Shiksyong. However, you didn't care. I'll definitely marry her one day, you said. I looked at you and smiled encouragingly. Of course, she's yours. In the end, she really will be yours. This work was created by me, so of course I knew how things would develop. You like her, she liked her Daseong, and this Daseong only liked power. It was the most melodramatic novel with a plot that readers loved the most. When I first wrote this novel, I took into account the taste of the audience. The main character with the golden finger learns martial arts, finds a beautiful woman, fights with his enemies, and conquers the whole world. It was the perfect plot. You've mastered martial arts well. On the contrary, I didn't have any skills in this aspect. Of course, this may be the reason why I can stay. You told me that this world is not good. Only if a person knows martial arts, he can live a better life. That's why you dragged me to study martial arts with you. But I didn't want to. You looked angry, stared at me for a long time, and eventually left in anger. I thought you'd give up and laugh about it. I don't need to study martial arts. Who would have thought that the next day you would get me out of bed early in the morning? You should study martial arts. How can you live well without learning martial arts? How can you even live? You insisted. I looked at you helplessly and after thinking about it, agreed. I didn't know when this dream would end, so I could go with you and experience life through martial arts. Finally, you smiled triumphantly. Your two tiger teeth mischievously showed their heads and greeted me. As expected, you're already a big boy, I chuckled. Since then, you've been waking me up every morning and teaching me martial arts. The sex martial arts couldn't be accessible to me, so you taught me how to train my fists and legs. Because of this, my fists and legs were terribly tired and sore, but you wouldn't let me give up. However, after completing my martial arts training, you gave me medicine. I was moaning in pain and you were laughing at my lack of masculinity. You were laughing so loudly, but your hand movements were secretly softening. While I wasn't paying attention, you were gently blowing on the sore spot. When I found you, you dropped the medicine and ran away. All I had to do was accept it, take a bottle of medicine and apply it. While I was experiencing difficulties, my hands suddenly became empty. I turned to look, but it was you who came back. The tips of your ears are clearly red with worry. Nevertheless, you continued to lift your chin in disdain. This little ancestor finds you pathetic, you said. One day, I couldn't find you anywhere. When I finally found you, you were very drunk and mumbling about your xiao shu mei. It was only then that it dawned on me that the plot had reached this point. You probably saw your xiao shu mei and Dashikyong kissing. You always believed that your xiao shu mei liked you. Now that you've witnessed such a scene, it's natural that you have been depressed for a while. It wouldn't be bad if I just left, so I decided to stay and have a drink with you. I should mention that the wine was good and I liked it. You were crying holding a jug of wine in your hands. Tears and snot were running down your face. When I got closer, you wiped yourself on my sleeve. I couldn't stop you in time. I could only take care of you in silence. It's good to live with martial arts skills. If I had known this was going to happen, I would have worked hard to make sure my sleeve would avoid this fate. Even when I was grieving, I could vaguely see your smug expression when you grabbed my sleeve. Really childish. The next day, I woke up with a splitting headache. Meanwhile, you were stunned and confused. When I saw you, I laughed at your poor alcohol tolerance. You secretly breathed a sigh of relief and then pretended to argue with me and said that you were the one who tolerated alcohol better. I knew why you were relieved. I just pretended I didn't know. A moment before I woke up, I felt a strange sensation on my lips. You never dared to meet me again. He avoided me everywhere and wouldn't look me in the eye. How could a man like you accept that he has a cropped sleeve? You must have been scared. Cropped sleeve is gay. I smiled and was happy that no one would be watching my martial arts classes anymore. Everything has changed dramatically. The Sackmaster died suddenly. The worst part is that your xiao shumei mysteriously disappeared when your Dasyong successfully took a high position. You were being hunted then. It was expected. Your Dasyong killed Shifu, so he was looking for someone to take the blame for what he had done. Naturally, this Blackbutt would be best suited for you as the most trusted disciple of the Sackmaster. Blackbutt is slang for a scapegoat. It was killing two birds with one stone. It was something that all male protagonists experience, and there is nothing surprising about it. But the moment I saw that you were being framed, I suddenly felt a little upset. You didn't have to go through all that. That's when I began to realize that this is not a dream for you, but real life. Although you were excellent at martial arts, you were helpless and didn't want to kill people. However, your Dasyong pushed you every step of the way. How could you win? In the end, you were chased all the way to the edge of the cliff, and you jumped off the cliff in a fit of grief. I followed you and jumped after you. I wanted to perform a soulful piece. Unfortunately, I was afraid of heights and lost consciousness as soon as I jumped. It was really pathetic. You were there when I woke up, dragging your limp leg behind you. You hobbled along with a bloody rabbit in your arms. It's extremely useful to master martial arts. We didn't have to worry about finding food in the wilderness. When you saw me waking up, you were surprised, dropped the rabbit, and rushed to me. I looked at the rabbit. Fortunately, he was already dying and couldn't escape. Otherwise, I would have starved to death. You asked me why I jumped down with you. I blinked and didn't answer. How was I supposed to respond? Because I was the one responsible for your suffering, so I felt guilty. I didn't know what you were thinking, but you looked so worried that I looked at you nervously, afraid that you would cry. Life at the foot of the mountain was quite peaceful. However, I knew that you would not accept such a fate. Somewhere at the foot of the mountain was a secret book of martial arts. You must find her and leave this barren place. With your brilliance, you will return to the world and create glory for yourself. Glory. One day you asked me if I wanted to come back, and then I realized that you had found a secret book. I said I would like to. How can I be a rock preventing you from succeeding? I was supposedly here to witness your path to triumph. You really found her. From that day on, you started practicing martial arts from the secret book. I stood at the cave entrance and waited for you to finish your training. That day, when you returned to the sect, I settled in an abandoned temple in a small, remote village in the mountains. I didn't want to take part in such chaos. You said you'd be back. I obediently stayed in the temple. I had nowhere to go anyway. When you returned, you took Xiaoximei with you. Her two little dimples were still there when she held your hand and called you Shixiong. Her voice was still as pleasant as ever, the voice you loved so much. She said you were getting married. You didn't deny it. You asked me to follow you to the sect, but I didn't want to come back. This place belonged to you and Xiaoximei, not me. You wanted to say something, but in the end you didn't say anything. When you turned around and left, your Xiaoximei smiled brightly at me. I've never felt such a desire to laugh before. Shortly after you left, I lost consciousness and was captured by a group of masked men. Really, I should have trained more. They beat me to the point where I could barely move from the pain. When I opened my eyes again, the smell of burnt flesh filled my nostrils. It smelled terrible. A hoarse voice asked me how I was feeling. Later, I realized that the smell was coming from me. I looked up and saw an ugly man. The freak saw that I wasn't paying any attention to him, so he put another brand on my skin. At that time, I felt a burning pain and I wanted to scream. However, there was no more strength left in my body. I could only sob softly. The ugly man looked as if he had been insulted. He left a mark and started poking an iron skewer into my finger, saying, "Scream, ah! I want to hear you scream, ah! It hurts so much." However, inside I just wanted to laugh. Did I stay adamant, huh? I was weak and I just didn't have the strength to scream. Surely there was no more useless creator of the world than me. I secretly thought about it. When the cold water woke me up, I shivered from the cold. There was no sunlight in the dark room. It was cold and they doused me with ice water. This man was really bad. Before I opened my eyes, a sweet voice rang out. "Aren't you doing great? Just give up, okay? He doesn't need you anymore. On the contrary, he likes me." Oh, I didn't have to open my eyes to find out who was in front of me. Was it only Xiaoximei who had such a sweet voice? I wanted to protest, but I didn't have the strength. She seemed to feel insulted. The next moment, the whip struck me a stinging blow. She'll take some things with her before she leaves. I think it should be a bit of flesh. I have to admit that their instruments of torture were terribly effective. I thought I'd end up losing consciousness again. But before that, I heard her scream. The sound of your trembling breathing echoed in my ears. You came too late. There was blood in front of my eyes. I couldn't see anything clearly. In the fog, I saw your hand stop not far from me, as if you didn't have the courage to touch me. Coward, even I'm not afraid. What are you so scared of? I'm here. Xiao Shimei, no, that bitch She said that as long as I treat her well, no one will hurt you. I'm sorry I was wrong. I shouldn't have believed her in the first place. The sect belongs to me now. I'm the head of the sect now. I like you. I'm sorry. Just don't die. I looked at you and suddenly I wanted to laugh. No, it's not concerns. That's what you had to do. This is what you should have received. I was originally not from this world. My eyes got wet. My face got wet from your tears. This time, you didn't use my sleeve, but directly rub against my face. I like you. Let's be together. I mean, you're acting like a child. How can two men be together? Unfortunately, I don't have any more strength left. Your tears were pouring down harder and harder, falling on my face one by one. It was excruciatingly painful, more painful than any torture. You said you regretted listening to me at all. You said that you originally intended to spend the rest of your life just the two of you at the foot of the mountain. You said that all your efforts were directed at me. You said you talked a lot, but unfortunately I couldn't hear anymore. I finally woke up. I didn't die unexpectedly, even if I was injured to such an extent. When I looked up to find you, I realized that I was just sitting in front of my computer and dreaming. For a moment, it seemed to me that he was real. Then I woke up from a dream. I looked at your name on the screen and suddenly burst out laughing. Your crying face was really ugly, and you even dared to howl loudly. It was humiliating. Let's see how you will meet with the disciples of your sect in the future. It took me a long time to react. You couldn't hear my tones because you're inside the book and I'm outside.